Hello and welcome to True Crime ESL, True Crime Stories for English Learners. I'm your host, Nova Singh. In the video description, there's a link to a free document with vocabulary descriptions and a transcript for this episode that you can download. Can you find the special phrase from the document in today's story? Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this podcast and want to hear more. Today, our story is about D.B. Cooper. The 24th of November 1971 was a normal day for most people, but it was also the day that one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries began. A man called Dan Cooper got on a plane going from Oregon to Seattle in Washington. He was wearing a suit with a black tie. He had short hair, was aged in his 40s, and was about 6 feet or 1.8 meters tall. One strange detail was that he was wearing sunglasses. He was carrying a briefcase and sat at the back of the plane. When the plane was in the air, he gave the flight attendant a note. It said there was a bomb in his briefcase. It also told her to sit next to him. She sat down and saw wires, a battery, and red sticks inside the case. Cooper gave her another note to give to the pilots. This one said he wanted 4 parachutes and $200,000 all in $20 bills. This would be the same as asking for about $1.5 million today. Dan Cooper was hijacking the plane. There had been lots of hijackings before this one, but most of them were by men using small guns. A bomb in a briefcase was a new idea. There were no security checks at airports like there are now, so Cooper just carried his bomb straight onto the plane. The plane landed in Seattle, and all 36 passengers were allowed to leave. Cooper demanded that the 2 pilots and 2 other members of the crew stay on board. Police had brought 4 parachutes and a bag with the money in it. The plane refueled, and Cooper told the pilots to fly to Mexico City. He also told them to fly lower and slower than normal. The media had heard about the hijacking by now, but Dan Cooper's name was reported incorrectly as D.B. Cooper. This is what we still call him, as Dan Cooper was not his real name either. He used a fake name or an alias when he bought his ticket. Not long into the flight, the steps at the back of the plane were lowered, and D.B. Cooper jumped out wearing a parachute with the bag of money tied around him. He also took his briefcase and a spare parachute. He was never seen again. He left behind 2 parachutes and his black tie. Nobody was hurt on the plane, and they landed safely. The FBI immediately started an investigation into the hijacking. 5 years later, in 1976, they had checked over 800 suspects and had a short list of about 20 names, but there was never enough evidence at the time to convict anyone of the crime. There are a few questions about the hijacking that have helped it become a famous unsolved mystery. Number 1. Did D.B. Cooper die when he jumped out of the plane? Nobody knows if D.B. Cooper survived the jump. The plane was flying lower and slower than normal. But it was nighttime, it was cold, it was raining, and the area he jumped out over had lots of trees, making it dangerous to land. Also, the police hadn't given D.B. Cooper 4 working parachutes. One of them was a training parachute which was sewn shut, so it couldn't be used. Cooper took this one with him when he jumped out of the plane, which made people think he didn't have much experience with parachutes. His main parachute was from the army, and it was difficult to turn it the way you wanted to go. Some people think this means he had little experience and didn't know what he was doing, but others think this means he was an expert. The FBI worked out where he jumped and where he could have landed, but no evidence and no body was found in that area. If Cooper landed successfully, he could have hitchhiked out of the area. He was wearing a suit, so he looked smart, which might have made it easier to get a car to stop for him. Number 2. What happened to the money? A body wasn't found, but what about the money? The FBI had the serial numbers of the $20 bills, meaning they could match the bills to the crime if somebody paid for something using them. None were reported, and there were no more clues until 9 years after the hijack. In 1980, a young boy found 3 bundles of money under some sand 10 miles northwest of Vancouver. The elastic bands were still around them, and the serial numbers matched the numbers on Cooper's money. $5,800 was found, and it was 20 miles from where the FBI thought Cooper had landed. Nobody knows how the money got there, or what happened to the rest of it. If it had been under sand and water for 9 years, how were the elastic bands still in good condition? Was it buried there on purpose to throw the FBI off the scent? The whole area was searched, but no more money was found. Number 3. Are there any clues about Cooper's identity? In total, over 1,000 people were investigated in the D.B. Cooper case, but nobody has ever been arrested. Cooper did leave a small amount of evidence on the plane. He smoked 8 cigarettes, but no fingerprints were found on them. Forensic techniques have found clues about the hijacker from the other things he left behind. Tiny particles of a metal called titanium were found on Cooper's black tie. This metal wasn't used a lot in the 1970s, so Cooper may have worked for a chemical or metal company. The particles were on a tie which a worker wouldn't wear, so maybe Cooper was a manager. DNA has been found on the tie, but so far there has been no match to anyone. A man hijacked a plane the same way a few months after Cooper's crime. He also demanded money and jumped out of the back of the plane using a parachute. He was caught, but the crew from Cooper's flight said he didn't look like Cooper. His DNA didn't match the DNA on the tie either. At least 6 men have said they were D.B. Cooper. Some of them confessed just before they died. They have all been ruled out, but not all of them had their DNA checked. This case is so famous because of all the questions about it. We don't know who D.B. Cooper was. We don't know what happened to the money. We don't know if he survived the parachute jump. We don't know if the search was carried out in the correct place. We don't even know if the bomb he had was real, because he took it with him when he jumped. This case is also popular because no one was hurt during the crime, so people have turned D.B. Cooper into a mysterious hero. The D.B. Cooper case is the only unsolved plane hijacking in American history, and it affected the way airline security worked. Now, everyone has to walk through a metal detector at the airport, and every bag is searched. There is even a new piece of equipment named after D.B. Cooper. After the hijacking, the maker of the plane added small metal handles to the outside of that model, so the stairs couldn't be lowered from the inside. This is called a Cooper vein. The FBI stopped investigating the D.B. Cooper case in 2016, but many people go on crime websites to talk about the details and to find out more about Cooper. If new evidence is found, the FBI will reopen the case. If there is enough DNA left on the tie to test, modern ways of tracing it through other family members mean that one day we could still find out who he was. So that's all for today. Thanks for listening to True Crime ESL. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this podcast, and maybe tell a friend about it. You can follow us on Instagram at True Crime ESL, and you can also buy us a coffee if you want us to keep making these podcasts. Today's story was written by Katy Watson, and all other production was by me, Nova Singh. You can download our free document for vocabulary, a transcript of today's story, and our story sources. You can find the link to the document in the video description. Take care and stay safe out there, true crime fans.